Hello, EE scholars! Welcome to lesson number 6 in my Ecology and Evolution series. Today, we'll be going over different types of communication, territoriality, mating systems, EPCs, and precocial versus altricial offspring. So first we have a little vocab. You're going to use these terms a lot, so you should probably know what they mean. Conspecific means a member of the same species. So if you went up to a person, then you'd be going to a conspecific. But if you went up to something like a dog, then you'd be going to a heterospecific. Heterospecifics are members of different species. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about communication. Communication can involve heterospecifics, and often does, but the only real requirements are that there are at least 2 organisms and at least 1 species. After all, you can't really have an organism without having a species. Now, there are 3 types of communication: cooperative, deceitful, and incidental. Cooperative communication is communication that benefits both the receiver, the organism that's on the receiving end of whatever is being communicated, and the signaler, which is the organism that's trying to communicate something. In deceitful communication, on the other hand, the signaler benefits at the expense of the receiver. In this case, the signaler is sometimes called a codebreaker because it has decoded the receiver's way of communicating, thus enabling it to deceive the receiver. Finally, in incidental communication, the roles of deceptive communication get reversed. In this type of communication, the receiver benefits at the expense of the signaler. If you look to the bottom here, I've made a table that tells you who benefits in each type of communication just to sum everything up. Alright, time for some practice. A firefly signals during the light and attracts the attention of a bird, which then eats the firefly because that's what it does. What type of communication is this? It was incidental. In this scenario, the firefly was a signaler and the bird was a receiver. Or if you wanted to go further, you could say that it was the illegitimate receiver. Now, I'd guess that the firefly getting eaten wasn't really in its best interest, so the firefly was negatively impacted. But the bird got a tasty snack, so it was positively impacted. Communication in which the receiver is benefited at the expense of the signaler is incidental communication. A predator mistakes a non-venomous king snake for a venomous coral snake. What type of communication is this? It was deceitful communication. In the example, there were 2 interacting organisms, the predator and the king snake. The king snake's pattern communicated to the predator that it was venomous when it really wasn't. By patterning itself its way, or just being patterned that way, the king snake is benefited. But by mistaking what could have been a good meal for something deadly, the predator is negatively impacted. And when the signaler is benefited at the expense of the receiver, it's called deceitful communication because the signaler is deceiving the receiver. An eel sees a blue-ringed octopus and decides not to eat it because it's toxic, and this time it really is toxic. What type of communication is this? This was cooperative communication. In the example, the blue-ringed octopus signaled to an eel that it was toxic. As a result, the eel didn't eat it, which spared both the eel and the octopus harm. So, since both participants were positively impacted, this would be cooperative communication. Okay, last example. Bullet spiders imitate the pheromones of female moths in order to attract and eat male moths. What type of communication is this? It was deceitful communication. In this case, the bullet spider was the signaler while the male moths were the receivers. By communicating, the bullet spider got some food, which was a benefit, and the male moths got eaten, which wasn't so much of a benefit. If the signaler is benefited at the cost of the receiver, then it's deceitful communication. So this is an example of deceitful communication. Okay, now we move on to territoriality. Territoriality is defined as when an individual defends a portion of its home range, which is essentially the area that an organism will travel through throughout its life, and uses its resources exclusively. Occupation of a territory is often expressed through overt aggression. One example of this, though it doesn't seem like it to us, is when birds sing, or, as we said in an earlier lesson, vocalize. Other than attracting mates, their vocalizations can serve the function of telling other males, hey, this is my spot, don't come here. Note that while territoriality can be an adaptive behavior, it can also not. Some cons of this behavior include things like revealing a position to predators, like if a bird sang and a predator heard it, and defending something that's just not worth defending. Of course, there's pros to territoriality too. Some of these are access to food, mates, and refuge from predators. So it really depends on the resources available in the environment to determine whether or not territoriality would be adaptive. Now, it's important to note that not all territoriality lasts for life. Some territoriality may be long-standing, but other times it can only occur during a breeding season. In other words, once the breeding season is over, the territorial individuals will no longer guard their territory. So I want you to think back to what I said about pros and cons in territoriality and try to apply them to this question. In which area would territoriality be most likely to occur? An area with scarce resources, an area with intermediate resources, or in an area with abundant resources? Why would it occur or not occur in each one? Territoriality would be most adaptive in an area with intermediate resources. Think about it this way. Say that you own a business and there's someone around that owns a competing business. Now, suppose that you're looking to relocate and this competitor is also looking to relocate. You both only need one building. At different points, you and your competitor meet with the same realtor and he gives you 3 options. Option A is a small shack in a very deserted part of town that no one ever goes to. Option B is a single building that's located downtown. And option C consists of a whole bunch of buildings that are all located in a very popular part of town. Now, let's say that you'd have to bid on all of these options. Which option would you be willing to try to outbid your competitor on? Would it be the small, deserted shack? Would it be the popular area with plenty of room for both of you? No, it would probably be option B, the singular building that's downtown. So if we're to relate this all to territoriality, the areas with scarce resources like option A aren't worth defending because they take more resources than they can ever give. On the other side of the spectrum, areas with abundant resources, like option C, aren't worth defending because there's plenty to go around. So that leaves us with intermediate areas, which aren't too small to be useless, but also aren't big enough to be shared, being the only ones really worth defending. Alright, let's move on and talk about mating systems. There are 3 overarching types of mating systems: polygyny, polyandry, and monogamy. In a polygynous mating system, one male mates with many females. You can remember this by knowing that poly means many and gyny means female. Similarly, polyandry is when a female mates with many males. While gyny means female, andry means male, so literally many males. Finally, in a monogamous mating system, one male mates with one female. This type of pairing typically exists in 2 forms, serial and strict. Serial monogamy is where one female and one male will mate for a breeding season. After the season, they'll part and just find another mate. The other type of monogamy is called strict monogamy, and it's where one female and one male mate for life. In nature, monogamy as a whole is often preferred when the parents raise offspring. So if the parents quickly abandon their offspring, then they're more likely to engage in one of the other mating systems. Let's do some practice. Male elephant seals create a harem and impregnate multiple females during a breeding season. What type of mating system is this? This is an example of polygyny. In the example, one male will mate with many females. Remember, poly means many and gyny means female. We have many females here, so this is polygyny. Male emperor penguins mate with one female per breeding season. What type of mating system is this? It was serial monogamy. In the example, one female mated with one male, which would make it monogamy. However, the pair only stayed together for a breeding season, which would make this serial monogamy. Let's try another one. River otters typically have one mate that they stay with for life. What type of mating system is this? This was strict monogamy. In the example, one female and one male paired together, so monogamy. And they paired together for life rather than only for a breeding season, which would make this strict monogamy. Alright, last one. So honeybees have a queen that mates with multiple males over the course of her lifetime. What type of mating system is this? This one was polyandry. In the example, we saw that one female, the queen, mates with many males. Recall that poly means many and andry refers to males. So one female mating with many males is polyandry. Okay, before we end the lesson for today, we just have a couple more concepts to introduce. This will be quick, I promise. So first off, we have EPCs, or extra pair copulations. EPCs are when a monogamous female mates with a male that is not her mate. This is usually done without the knowledge of the mate, and the extra pair male is often genetically superior to the female's actual mate. The reason that females enter into EPCs is for better genetic and reproductive success. If a female successfully copulates with the extra male, resulting in fertilization, then her mate will unknowingly take care of the offspring after it's born, believing that it's his. In this way, she secures better genes for her offspring along with parental care. Finally, we have two different types of offspring, precocial and altricial. Precocial offspring are offspring that require little parental care. They're usually somewhat independent as soon as they're born, such as being able to stand and whatnot. Examples of these would include horses, deer, chickens, and hares. Altricial offspring, on the other hand, are offspring that require prolonged and extensive care. So, to review, we have three types of communication: cooperative, deceitful, and incidental. Make sure you know who's benefited and who's not in all three types. Next, we went over the definitions of territoriality, EPCs, and precocial versus altricial offspring. Take care to remember what each of those mean. Finally, there are three different types of mating systems: polygyny, polyandry, and monogamy. Monogamy includes serial monogamy and strict monogamy, which vary in terms of relationship length. And that concludes our 6th lesson for ecology and evolution. I hope that you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.